All right, let's dive into one of the most famous stories ever told, the 16th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. Now, you probably think you know how it ends, but this story has a fascinating secret, a twist ending, or maybe a missing one that honestly changes everything. So the story kicks off not with some grand theological statement, but with a very human, very practical problem. You've got these women heading to a tomb, and one question is just looping in their minds. Who is going to roll that stone away for us? It's such a simple, real question, and it immediately sets this incredibly tense stage. And let's be clear, we're not talking about a small rock here. This was a massive stone barrier. I mean, it was a symbol of finality, of death itself. For them, it was a completely impossible obstacle, and the story really wants you to feel the weight of that problem right from the start. Okay, so let's just trace their journey for a second. The Sabbath ends so they can finally go buy the spices they need. Then, super early the next day, right as the sun's coming up, they head out. But that whole walk is just filled with anxiety about this one thing. The text even makes a point to say the stone was very large, really hammering home the scale of the challenge they think they're about to face. So they finally get there, probably bracing themselves for this huge challenge, wondering what they're even going to do. The scripture says they look up, and their eyes fall on the entrance, on that stone they've been stressing about this whole time. And just like that, the problem's gone. The very thing they were so worried about has just vanished. But you see, solving that problem only opens the door to a much, much bigger mystery. The question totally changes, right? It's not how do we get in anymore. Now it's what on earth happened here? With the path clear, they step into the tomb, and this is where things go from mysterious to truly shocking. What they find inside is way more stunning than the stone outside, which brings us to part 2 of our story, the angel's message. The tomb isn't empty, not at all. Instead, there's a young man in a white robe just sitting there, calmly, on the right side. And I want you to notice the contrast here, between how calm he is and their reaction. The text uses the word alarmed. Now, this isn't just being a little surprised. This is a deep, gut-level shock. And this young man just immediately cuts through their terror with the most important message of the entire chapter. He has risen. He is not here. It's so direct, so stunning. It flips the entire narrative on its head, from a story about grief to, well, to something else entirely. And he doesn't just drop this bombshell and leave, right? He gives them a super clear 4-part mission. First up, an assurance, don't be alarmed. Second, a command, go. Third, a specific audience, tell his disciples and Peter. And finally, a promise for the future, he's going ahead of you to Galilee. So how do the women react to this life-altering news and these direct orders? Well, they fled the tomb, trembling and bewildered. The original Greek word here suggests something like ecstatic terror. And in that state of complete shock and fear, they said nothing to anyone. And that reaction, just pure frightened silence, it doesn't resolve the story. Not at all. In fact, it just kicks off the next major conflict, a powerful wave of disbelief that just washes over Jesus' closest followers. The story pivots, and we learn that Jesus appears first to Mary Magdalene. That makes her the very first witness to the resurrection. So her job now is to bring this incredible news to the disciples, who she finds just completely lost in mourning and weeping. And this slide just perfectly captures the tension, doesn't it? On one side, you have this incredible report from a direct eyewitness. On the other side, the reaction from the inner circle is just, nope, they did not believe it. The gap between what was said and what was believed is a chasm. And this wasn't just a one-off thing, you know? It wasn't just them doubting Mary. The text says Jesus appeared to 2 other followers. They rush back, they tell everyone what they saw, and same result. The rest of the disciples did not believe them. A stubborn pattern is definitely emerging. So how do you finally shatter this pattern of disbelief? Well, it takes a direct confrontation, which leads to this incredible moment that we now call the Great Commission. Jesus himself appears to the remaining 11 apostles, and he does not mince words. The text says he rebuked them for their lack of faith and their stubborn refusal to believe. He calls them out directly on all their doubt. And it's only after he confronts their disbelief, head on, that he gives them this brand new purpose. This command, go into all the world, becomes their new mission.
basically designed to snap them out of that paralyzed doubt and into active, global work.
And to empower this mission, the text promises that some pretty extraordinary signs will follow those who believe. I mean, look at this list. Driving out demons, speaking in new tongues, even surviving poison. These aren't just random miracles. They're described as signs meant to be a kind of proof, to confirm that the message is true. So the story wraps up with the disciples going out, preaching everywhere, the Lord confirming their message. It's a neat, tidy, triumphant ending. Or is it? Because this is where the story takes its most surprising turn. Let's talk about a story with two endings. We've just followed this really clear narrative, right? From doubt to belief, from fear to commission. But what if that neat resolution isn't the original one? What if the story was actually meant to end on a much more, well, ambiguous note? Okay, here's the twist. If you open up a lot of modern Bibles, you'll find a little footnote, a note that pretty much all scholars agree on. It says that the earliest and most reliable handwritten copies of the Gospel of Mark just stop. Everything from verse 9 to 20, the whole part we just covered about the appearances and the commission, it's missing. So this gives us two completely different endings. The original, shorter one ends at verse 8, leaving us with these women running away, terrified and silent. It's abrupt, it's unsettling, it's totally unresolved. The longer ending, which was almost certainly added by a scribe later on, gives us the resolution, the appearances, the triumphant conclusion that we're all familiar with. This leaves us with a really fascinating question. Was the story supposed to end with human fear and unresolved tension? Or does it actually need that second ending, the one added later, probably by someone who felt it needed a happier, more reassuring close, to feel complete? It forces us to think about how an ending can totally reshape a story's meaning and to ask ourselves, which version is actually more powerful?